There are people who have extraordinary powers of perception and make their living as professional psychics. But tonight we'll meet ordinary people who suddenly, and for no apparent reason, have one striking psychic vision. For them, that single clairvoyant moment becomes a living nightmare. August 1990. The usually laid-back town of Gainesville, Florida was paralyzed with fear. 5 violent murders within 40 hours. 5 college students mutilated in their apartments, and no arrests. 2 years later, the case remains open. Over 1,000 miles away, a successful businessman who has never been to Gainesville begins to experience nightmarish visions.
Well, I walked out to the barn and about 9:30 at night, and was taking care of the horses down there. And on my way back from the barn, I just happened to look up into the sky, and I saw a window with a silhouette of a person in there. A few weeks went by. I had a premonition that I was going to meet this killer from Gainesville. The very next day after the premonition, I did meet a gentleman from Gainesville.
For the past year, visions of a murder have haunted a man who's never had a psychic experience. The images are so real, so frightening, that he's asked to remain anonymous and be referred to as John.
One morning, I just happened to see this vision of a dog. I seen the head of a dog on the door, and after looking at it more thoroughly, I could actually see the dog's body.
After a couple of weeks, John began to see more and different images in the door. A young girl, the state of Florida, an athletic field, a deer, a sickle. The images gave John no answers, only questions.
What is the average person to do when they start having what they believe are intuitive impressions about, say, a crime, a murder, a series of murders?
The spirit who was coming to me was a girl, a young girl. And I had the feeling that this spirit was a girl about 20 or so years old, and she was one of the victims.
John wanted to go to the police, but he was afraid that if he told them what he'd seen, they might make him a suspect. That is exactly what happened to California housewife Etta Smith 10 years earlier.
It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was listening to a radio broadcast while at work. And they said that they had found the lady's vehicle in Pacoima, I think on a dead-end street, and that they were making a house-to-house search for her. And as soon as they said house-to-house search and that thought registered, it was as if someone said to me, "She's not in a house." I saw a picture. It was as if someone had put a picture right in front of me.
Etta drove to a police station and revealed her startling insight to a homicide detective.
I explained exactly. It'd be the right-hand side with a dirt path to her, a hill behind her. He suggested that I show him on a wall map where this area was, and that's when we discovered that it was Lopez Canyon. I don't think I was thinking right, but I knew I had to go see for myself. I knew the police would never tell me, and I was afraid maybe they wouldn't look.
Within minutes, Etta saw her vision become a horrifying reality.
As my eyes traveled further across the object, at the end of the object were white nurse's shoes.
On her way back down the canyon, she reported her grisly find to a ranger. Shaken by the experience, Etta then went home. Not long after, there was a knock at her door.
She went home, and then subsequently she was brought down by the police department and arrested for the murder of this woman.
It took 9 years and a jury trial before Etta was exonerated for doing what she thought was right. But how do you explain the source of her psychic experience, or John's startling visions? Somehow, John had to come to terms with the gruesome visions that had been haunting him. Psychic psychologist Keith Harari accompanied him to Gainesville to help him on his journey. They visited the murder scenes in search of clues to the mystery.
When I was out and having these visions, I would ask for something that only the police would know, or that she could tell me. One of them being that what was the murder weapon used. And she gave me a vision of a sickle. And the sickle could be found in an area behind a football field. And I also envisioned a tree and also a symbol or a deer or some type of animal.
One victim attended classes at the Gainesville Teaching Zoo, where not only are there deer, but a parking lot under construction on top of what used to be an athletic field.
I'm just an average person, okay, having a vision, and that with that, they would look upon me as wacky.
The dead tree was the sign John was looking for, and with the supervision of Keith Harari, he began an intensive search for the murder weapon.
Things that have happened to me all pertain to this Gainesville killing, and this spirit that has come to me is one of the victims, and I feel it so strongly that I just can't let it go. I have to follow this through as she wants me to do. I feel that she wants to put an end to this and put this person in jail, and I just can't let it go like that.
Life is a mystery, and it's full of mysteries, and it's full of situations in which you don't always get closure. I mean, the healthiest thing to do in this case is to say, well, I don't know, I checked it out, I didn't find anything, go back to one's ordinary life and have a good life, open to the possibility that sometimes things happen that you can't explain.
On June 9th, 1992, while this story was being shot, a new development. A man named Danny Rolling was indicted for murder in the Gainesville case. But Danny Rolling is not the man in John's visions. John believes there's a second murderer who has not yet been caught. And in fact, the Gainesville Police Department admits there may be a second murderer at large. The investigation continues, and for John, so does the waking nightmare of his psychic visions.